All right, so today we're going to dive into this guy, David Goggins,
Oh, yeah.
and his book, Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah, this will be good.
It's, you know, he's pretty intense,
He is.
but I think there's a lot to learn.
Absolutely. I mean, just look at his childhood.
Yeah.
Poverty, abuse,
Yeah.
witnessing his own mother suffer. It's,
Rough.
it is. But it also kind of shows just how resilient people can be.
Totally. But you also can't ignore the impact of those experiences.
Right.
Like, you know that story where his dad, like, gambles away all their money
Oh, man.
and then spits on him through the car window on the way home?
Oh.
Goggins says it felt like venom, burning. It just gives you a sense of, like, the rage and resentment he
Yeah.
must have been carrying around even as a kid.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting is how he uses those experiences later,
Hmm.
almost like fuel.
Oh, for sure. That's kind of his whole thing, right?
Right.
He doesn't want you to dwell on the negative stuff. He wants you to take that adversity, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and turn it into strength. He calls it a
What
calloused mind.
a calloused mind. I like that.
Yeah.
Like, if you keep
Yeah.
exposing your hands to rough surfaces, they get calloused.
Exactly.
It's the same idea, but for your mind.
Right. The more you go through hardship, the
Yeah.
tougher you become.
Okay, but we're talking about a guy who volunteered for multiple rounds of Hell Week.
I know, right?
Like the SEAL selection process. How does anyone get that tough?
Well, Goggins would say we all have that potential. It's just most people give up
Okay.
way too easily when things get tough. He thinks most people only use like 40%.
40%.
Yeah, he calls it the 40% rule.
Okay.
Basically, we put limits on ourselves,
Yeah.
physical and mental,
Right.
and he's all about pushing past those.
To see what we're really capable of?
Exactly.
He makes it sound so easy, though.
Well, I mean,
Like, embrace the suck. Push past your limits. Boom, you're a SEAL. There's got to be more to it.
of course, he's not saying just be reckless.
Right.
It's about being strategic,
Okay.
choosing the right challenges, the ones that'll actually make you grow. And he gives you a way to do that, too.
Yeah.
He talks about making a cookie jar.
A cookie jar.
Yeah, but not a real one.
Okay.
It's filled with memories of your past successes.
Oh, interesting.
So when you face a new obstacle and you start doubting yourself,
Yeah.
you reach into that cookie jar and remember what you've already overcome.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like using your past wins to fuel your future ones.
So it's not just about being tough, it's about being smart, too.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Good.
So Goggins escapes this awful childhood,
Mhm.
ends up in Indianapolis with his mom. Fresh
Yeah.
start, right?
You'd think so.
But then her new partner, Wilmeth,
Yeah.
who brought some stability into their lives,
Right.
he gets murdered. Just like that, he's gone. How do you even process that?
I mean, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
But you can see, even then, Goggins has this drive, this fight in him.
Yeah.
He takes that grief, that anger, and turns it into motivation.
But still trying to find his path.
Definitely.
He ends up back in this racially charged town.
Brazil, Indiana,
Yeah. Feeling totally isolated.
not a good place to be.
He even gets a death threat.
You're kidding?
And the school does nothing.
Wow.
It just shows, you can escape one bad situation,
Right.
but there's always something else waiting.
It seems like it.
But you know what? For Goggins, it's like these intense situations.
Yeah.
They bring out something in him. He's pushed to the edge, has to face his fears,
And that's where his potential starts to show.
but he's still failing school,
Mm-hmm.
gets cut from the basketball team.
Oh, right.
It's hard to imagine this is the same guy who'll become this ultra marathon runner, this motivational speaker.
I know.
Like, when did everything change?
It was a letter.
A letter.
Yeah, from the school.
What did it say?
Basically, that his grades were so bad, his attendance was so bad, he was going to get held back a year.
Oh, rough.
For most kids, that'd be a disaster.
Right.
But for Goggins, it was a wake-up call.
Really?
He describes this moment, looking in the mirror,
Yeah.
disgusted with himself, and he shaves his head.
He shaves his head.
Yeah, like he's shedding his old self,
Wow.
the one who was failing, making excuses.
Yeah.
And that's when he decides to join the Air Force.
The Air Force.
Yeah, but there's a catch.
What's that?
His ASVAB scores are too low, he doesn't qualify.
Oh, man.
Most people would just give up right there.
Yeah, probably.
But not Goggins.
So what does he do?
He gets this crazy job as an exterminator.
An exterminator.
They're working crazy hours to pay for another ASVAB test.
Wow.
And on top of that, he's training like crazy.
Intense.
And it's during one of those late night extermination jobs. He's
Yeah.
at this cockroach-infested restaurant. he has this, like, epiphany.
Good
He's
eye.
watching all these roaches, thousands of them fleeing from the poison he's spraying.
Right.
And it hits him. He's been running from his own potential, too. Giving up too easily. Physically, mentally.
So he's seeing these roaches and...
Yeah, these symbols of resilience.
Yeah.
And it clicks. He needs to stop running, start facing his weaknesses head on.
Okay, so that fuels his drive to take the ASV again.
Right.
And go after this crazy dream of becoming a SEAL.
One of the toughest things you can do.
For sure.
And that's where his story really takes off. But before we get to Hell Week, what do you think is the big takeaway from this part of his journey?
That's a good question.
It's about realizing we have a choice.
A choice.
Goggins could have easily stayed a victim of his past.
Right.
But he chose to confront it, to use his pain to build that calloused mind.
To fill his cookie jar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He chose to see potential where others just saw hardship.
So even when things seem impossible, we can choose how we react.
We can let it break us, or we can use it to grow.
That's powerful.
It is. And that's what Goggins is all about.
Not about becoming him, but finding that power within ourselves.
Exactly.
All right, we'll be back soon to talk about Hell Week and how Goggins not only survived it,
He thrived in it.
but thrived in it. Until then, ask yourself, what's in your cookie jar?
So Goggins, he gets to SEAL training.
Right, ready to prove himself.
But even for him, Hell Week is brutal.
Yeah, I mean, we've all heard the stories.
Sleep deprivation.
Constant challenges.
Yeah.
It's designed to break you.
They want to weed out anyone who's not 100% committed.
But Goggins doesn't just survive.
Yeah.
He, embraces it.
He uses humor,
Oh, yeah.
finds ways to laugh.
Even in all that suffering?
Even in all that suffering. And he realizes a lot of it's a mind game. The instructors are trying to break you mentally.
Not just physically.
Exactly.
Goggins gets that and uses it to his advantage.
He does. Remember that rivalry with Psycho Pete?
Oh, yeah, that instructor?
Yeah, the one who seemed to target Goggins.
It's like he was trying to break him.
But it kind of had the opposite effect.
It's made him stronger.
Exactly. That's what's interesting about Goggins. He leans into the pain.
He almost seems to enjoy it.
He does. He talks about claiming ownership of your suffering.
Interesting.
It's not about being a victim. It's about choosing to see challenges as opportunities.
To grow.
Exactly.
But even in this intense environment,
Yeah.
tragedy strikes. Mr. Scop, another trainee, he dies
Oh.
during one of the training exercises.
It's a reminder that this stuff is serious.
Yeah, it's not a game.
Now,
How does Goggins deal with that?
you'd think he'd question everything.
Right.
Maybe walk away.
But he doesn't.
Nope. He turns his grief into even more determination.
Wow.
He wants to finish, to honor Mr. Scop's memory.
To make his sacrifice mean something.
Exactly.
Even in the face of death, Goggins finds a way to keep going.
He does. And he makes it through Hell Week.
Graduates BUDS.
The basic SEAL training.
But it doesn't stop there,
No, he wants to be a full-fledged SEAL.
which means more training, more selection.
This is where that calloused mind really comes in.
So it's not something you're born with, it's something you
It's
develop,
through consistent effort.
and a willingness to embrace the suck.
Yeah, pretty much. But not everyone can do that.
Right.
Well, Goggins would say we all have the capacity for greatness.
Hmm.
It's just most of us are held back by self-doubt and fear of failing.
So he wants us to question those limits.
Yes.
Push ourselves further.
To see what we're truly capable of.
And that's where his 40% rule comes in.
Right.
That most of us are only using a fraction of our potential.
Like we have this hidden reserve of strength and willpower.
Just waiting to be unlocked.
Exactly.
So how do we tap into that?
He's not saying we all need to go through Hell Week,
Right.
but he does believe everyone has their own personal Hell Week.
What do you mean by that?
Those moments in life that test us.
Okay.
Force us to confront our fears.
So it's about seeking out those challenges.
Embracing them.
Even,
As a way to grow.
yeah, but you got to have a strong why.
Oh, why?
What drives you?
Hmm.
What are you passionate about?
What are you willing to suffer for?
Because without a purpose, it's easy to give up.
So you got to have a reason.
You got to know why you're pushing yourself.
Okay, so we've got our why. We're building our calloused mind, filling our cookie jar.
Right.
What's next for Goggins?
Well, he graduates SEAL training,
Becomes a SEAL.
but he's not satisfied with just that.
Of course not.
He wants to push himself further.
Always pushing. Right.
Always.
So he moves from special ops to ultra marathons.
It's like he goes from one extreme to another.
But this time, it's self-inflicted.
Goggins wants to see how far he can go.
What kind of races are we talking about?
Ultramarathons. Sometimes on top of his regular SEAL duties,
No way.
he wants to prove that the body can handle way more than we think
He's not just running them, he's competing.
at an elite level.
Like the Hurt 100.
the Badwater Ultramarathon
135 miles through Death Valley.
in the summer.
Yeah, peak summer heat.
That's insane.
And then there's the Ultraman World Championship.
That's a multi-day thing, right?
Swimming, cycling,
Well,
running.
How does he even do it?
He approaches these races the same way he approached SEAL training.
Mentally tough.
He visualizes everything, the pain, the exhaustion.
He plans for it.
He develops strategies for pushing through.
It's like he's playing mind games with himself.
He's using that cookie jar.
Reminding himself he's done hard things before.
Exactly, and he's learning from other elite runners.
Oh, like who?
Guys like Carl Meltzer, Speed Goat,
The mountain runner.
and Scott Jurek, the legend.
Wow, so he's surrounding himself with the best.
He's always trying to learn, even when he's already at the top.
Always pushing to be better.
Always. But even Goggins has limits.
Right, he's human.
He gets diagnosed with a heart defect, an ASD.
Serious stuff.
It could have been fatal, especially with all the underwater stuff in the SEALs.
So what does he do?
He doesn't give up.
No way.
He adapts, gets the best medical advice, changes his training.
Wow.
Eventually, he has surgery to fix it.
He doesn't let it stop him.
Nope. It just reinforces his belief in the power of mindset.
So even with physical limitations, the mind can still achieve amazing things.
That's the lesson. We all have limitations, but they don't have to define us.
It's about finding ways to work around them, keep moving forward.
And Goggins, he goes on to do even more amazing things.
Yeah, his story doesn't end there.
But what's really impressive is how he impacts others.
He uses his platform to inspire people.
People from all walks of life.
He becomes a speaker, an author, a coach.
Helping others unlock their potential.
He's not just talking about it.
No.
He's living it.
He's still challenging himself, setting an example.
But before we get into that, what are the big takeaways from this part of his journey?
Suffering is inevitable, but we choose how we respond to it.
Right.
We can let it break us or make us stronger.
And the mind is powerful.
So
Goggins shows us that mental strength is just as important as physical strength.
we can visualize success, anticipate challenges, develop strategies.
And we need a strong why.
It's the fuel that keeps us going when things get tough.
Goggins' story is incredible.
It really is.
It shows that hard work, discipline, and belief in yourself can lead to amazing things.
It's not about your genes, your talent, or your background.
It's about mindset, pushing your limits, never giving up.
Embracing the suck.
In the next part, we'll talk about how Goggins takes all these lessons.
Yeah, the calloused mind, the cookie jar, the 40% rule.
And uses them to help others find their own potential. You know, it's one thing to push yourself to those limits.
Yeah,
But then to turn around and help others do the same.
it's pretty amazing.
It makes you wonder, is that like a natural next step?
Maybe, he spends years figuring himself out, testing his theories.
Yeah.
And who better to help others than someone who's been there?
Right, like a who's walked the walk.
Exactly.
So he becomes a recruiter for the SEALs.
Focuses on people of color.
Yeah, a group that's been underrepresented.
And he's honest about it,
What do you mean?
He doesn't sugarcoat anything. Tells them how hard it is.
The sacrifices, the mental toughness.
All of it.
But he also understands that it's not just about physical strength.
Right. It's about mental strength, too.
Resilience.
Facing your fears.
Yeah.
He wasn't just looking for the best athletes.
He was looking for something more.
Heart. Grit.
He wanted many Gogginses.
I guess you could say that.
But it's cool that he saw that need for diversity
Yeah.
and used his own experience to inspire a new generation.
Like Sledge and Bill Brown.
They both overcame so much to become SEALs.
It's like he's saying, if I can do it, you can too.
But he gives you the tools, too.
You're not just a motivational speech.
Right. He talks about self-talk.
How you talk to yourself.
It can either help you or hurt you,
Goggins is all about positive self-talk.
even when it feels weird.
Yeah, like forcing yourself to believe it. He replaces those negative thoughts with positive ones.
Reminders of his strength, his goals,
And he's not saying ignore the bad stuff.
the darkness, the fear,
He knows it's there.
but it doesn't control him.
Right. He sees it as information.
Part of the process, but not the whole story.
He focuses on his why.
That keeps him going.
It's like his compass.
So it's not about ignoring those negative emotions.
It's about choosing how you respond to them.
That's powerful.
It is.
And he's so open about his own struggles.
Yeah, he doesn't pretend to be perfect,
He's willing to share what's worked for him.
hoping it helps others.
He's not afraid to be vulnerable.
What makes him relatable?
Yeah, he's not some superhuman.
He's a guy who faced his challenges head on,
Learned from them.
grew from them.
And that's his legacy.
He shows us that real strength comes from facing your weaknesses.
Confronting your fears, pushing yourself.
We're all capable of amazing things.
It's not about your genes or your background.
It's about mindset.
Making that choice to push yourself. Embrace the uncommon.
He makes you question everything.
What do you think is possible?
He wants you to live a meaningful life.
A life that reflects your true potential.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Goggins,
What's the one thing you hope people take away?
that they're capable of more than they think.
That the power to overcome anything is within them.
It's not about becoming Goggins, it's about finding your own potential.
Embrace the challenge. Conquer your mind.
Never give up.
That's the Goggins legacy. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and remember,
Stay hard.